7 trucks with plows, 2 front end loaders, 4 skid steers, 8 tractors.
Oh wow! Oh, you're doing commercial.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we
That's
do
where
we
that's
do
where the money
commercial
is.
and residential. We have about 100 commercial and about 250 residential.
Okay. Wow. Oh, you got a big account, man. You've been pumping that for years, then.
I started the residential several years ago. The commercial, I actually bought out another guy here recently,
Sweet.
2 years ago.
So they call it blood money here. All my local contractors are like, we just do it so we have a little cash flow. We get through the winter, and then we have all kinds of problems in the spring when the snow melts and we see all the damage to the Belgian block and the trucks and the plows, and
Yeah,
you kind of just bring the money in and throw the money right back out, but you make a payroll, and you know how it is. Cash flow
yeah,
is king. You got to have money coming in. So
yeah. Whenever your payroll's 150, 200,000 a week, you got to make some money.
yeah, your program is not for the faint of heart. I don't know how you do it. I mean, man, my overhead is like 65,000 a month. Actually, it's probably far more than that now with the software company, but I don't even want to I don't even look at it. I talk those numbers and most guys have a heart attack. All right, so here we are, everybody. We have the big dog. We have the big dog on finally. Cory Michael Jay. Some people call him Cory. Some people call him Michael. I bet you his mother calls him Michael. What do you call yourself, my friend?
Anything but late for dinner? No, I don't. I go by Cory. That's everybody calls me Cory. I don't have any fun nicknames, unfortunately. We can
Well,
try to make
we'll work on that. I'll have something for you in a couple of weeks at GutterCon. Maybe this podcast today will be inspiration. If you don't know who this guy is, you're sleeping at the wheel, guys. This is Cory
one.
Jay, Advantage Seamless Gutters. He's in. Are you in northern Minnesota?
It's everybody thinks it's Canada. It's central Minnesota. We're quite a ways from the border. Everybody forgets that Minnesota is a really long state, so
Yes, it is.
we're about halfway through it. People consider it northern Minnesota, but I'd call it central.
Okay, awesome. Cory is, some of us know in the industry, Cory has this powerhouse of a business. He's been whittling away at it for how many years in business are you?
13 years.
All right, so I'm going to go out on a limb and speak for him a little bit. I may get some of this stuff wrong, and we're going to turn to Cory, and he can clean it up if I totally mutilate it. But I think Cory does about $10 million a year in rain gutters. As far as we know, for a business that is highly rain gutter specific, and I think Cory does a few other things, but he does a lot of rain gutter, and we're going to get into how much rain gutter he does. This guy's doing $10 million a year in revenue. He's in multiple locations, and he just told us he's 13 years in business. So he's obviously a wealth of knowledge. I really enjoy Cory. He's as successful as he is. He's very humble. He's very approachable. He's just a regular knock around guy, and I really enjoy communicating with him. And he's the type of guy that comes up to you. So he came up to me at a GutterCon and said, "Hey, I want to meet you. I see you on Facebook. I've heard good things about you. I want to meet. Let's sit down and chop it up." And we did just that. We've talked on the phone a number of times at a distance. I'm in Connecticut. He's in Minnesota. But he's just a very approachable guy, and he's super humble. And I always walk away with some knowledge I didn't have after a conversation with Cory. So, Cory, how do you do it, man? How do you work the magic? $10 million a year. Obviously, you are on a very focused, driven path here with the business. I'd love to just shut my mouth, which tends to run a lot, and listen to the guru and hear from you what you're doing, what your goals are with the business, how you've done it. I mean, everything is inspirational in these types of chats. Where you started from, how fast you scaled, and where you're going with this business.
So, we started, 13 years ago, but I really didn't start scaling until like probably 5, 6 years ago. Something like that is when we really turned the throttle on. I was like every other guy that's ever been in gutters. I'm like banging my head against the wall, couldn't get off the truck. I
Yep.
was just exhausted every day. I'd come home, do invoices every night, do sales every night, every weekend.
Brutal,
Um,
right?
I've been there. I've lived the gauntlet that is the gutter life. and like it was like 5 6 years ago, I told our ops manager at he's ended up being the ops manager, but I said, hey, we've got to do this different. Like this isn't working, man. I'm tired. You're tired. Like let's
Yeah.
start getting a little bit smarter with it. So we hired on. At the time, we hired on our first salesman. That went colossally wrong. Like everything that could have went wrong with that went wrong. I don't know if you've
But
ever.
that's a good thing because that's how we learn, right? That's how we right the ship and figure it out. You have to have like a train wreck of a mess so that you know where you're never going to go again. Is that how
Yeah,
it went?
pretty much. And I don't even. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't anything he was necessarily doing. He didn't have the guidelines of what should I be doing every day. And like we're in the what you would call northern Minnesota. And it's like the first winter comes up. I had hired him in the summer and went into winter, and he just sat on the couch every day. He's like, "Well, that's just what I thought we did in Minnesota." And like, oh man, like we're still gonna work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think it was his fault. We gave him like no guidelines to follow and no script, no nothing. We didn't give him any roadmap to get there.
Sure.
So he left. Ended up my dad stepped in as a salesman for a little while,
Cool.
and together him and I kind of wrote the book of what our sales program is now. And my dad's an amazing salesman. If you ever
I
get a
did meet
chance to
him.
meet
He's an
him,
awesome guy. He's a great guy. I
uh,
met him last year at GutterCon. Great
yeah,
dude.
wealth of knowledge, loves to talk, just a fun guy to be around, and that's what I mean. That's ultimately what everybody wants, right? In a salesman, they don't want
Totally.
the real salesman type.
Well, it's a nice guy that you like to hang around, right?
Yeah, and that's what our goal was. Like we wanted to be excited to run into people at the grocery store and build something that was really had a good reputation in every community we were in. It didn't matter where we were at. So we sat down and kind of made the pipe dreams. I remember our first meeting that we ever had. It was my dad, my wife, and me, and one other person that was with us, the ops manager, I'm like, guys, I read a book. We're supposed to have meetings, and they're like, okay, what are
So
we meeting about?
this is when you first started. So would you say you are systems based right now? Is that what you're telling me? You're heavily systems based, and that was the tipping point for the business.
Without a doubt, yeah, we're very systems based. I have hundreds and hundreds of pages on how to run the company, and it,
Amazing.
it's tough to get somebody into a position if you can't give them the roadmap. So
What was that first book that inspired you? The one you just mentioned. Do you remember?
that one was EOS, so traction. But
EOS
so I read the book Traction,
traction.
uh, and it runs the EOS system. But
Do, do you still go back to that book from time to time? Is that still like the skeleton, the framework of the business is based on that, or what?
I go back to it from time to time. We're still based strongly around that. It was funny. I mean, that was way back whenever I decided I was going to systematize anything. And then I went like another 3 years without telling anybody that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then there was the second part that I screwed up on was not sharing my vision with anybody. And then whenever we finally sat down and implemented some of that structure, the guy that we hired to help us implement it, he's like, this is crazy. You have most of it done already. Nobody ever has this. I'm like, well, we've
Wow.
been trying for a while. We just driving around in a ship that goes in a circle.
Yeah. Did you need that third party? Did you need the fellow to help you implement? Was he like
Yeah,
a systems guy or a business coach or?
he's a business coach, and honestly, like if you're getting ready to scale, you need somebody. It doesn't have to be a professional necessarily, but you need a third party that can get you back on track and kind of guide you a little bit. Because it like me, I could just talk to the team in circles, and we feel like we didn't get anywhere. But
Right.
on those big planning meetings, I do think you need a second person, third party
Yeah.
person.
Did you find that? Now it's funny because it becomes a whole cultural movement, and you have a massive staff. And I know, I was as big as 16. I now have dedicated subcontractors. That's my model, and I have 6 or 7 front office employees that are full time employees of my business, and we run the sales and the lead center and the marketing, which has grown into like the most critical element. More important than sales even. But when I had 16, 17, I brought in a business coach, and he was with me for over a year, and he was like the Grim Reaper to my staffers. When he came through, these guys scurried. They thought he was in a locked room with me, whiteboarding how I was going to put a noose around everybody's neck and who's going to get fired and who's going to get uh, repurposed in a different division of the business. Everybody gets nervous about that stuff. Was this guy embraced in your business, or was he kind of? There must have been some boot shaking going on.
So in the beginning, there was like a lot of mumbling about everybody hating it, but in the long run, like the management team really embraced it. Further down the line, we're still like we've been at it now for like 3 years with the new structure that we put in place,
Right.
and we're still not perfect. Like we just hired another third party guy to come in and start overseeing some stuff.
So I'm decent at math. I'm not a mathematician, but you said 13 years in business, and you kind of really just started to blow up about 5 years ago. Just to kind of jump to the numbers, what were you doing in revenues 5 years ago? Gross
Five
revenue.
years 5 years ago would have been like 1 million, 1.5 million.
Holy smokes! So you're doing. Right, what'd you do in 23? Do you have the numbers tallied?
So we're at like I think we came in at like 9.8 million or something, so just shy of 10. We stepped back.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I actually ended up with 10 the year before, but I wanted more profit, so we refined some stuff.
So that is incredible growth. And do you chalk it up to? I mean, obviously, you're probably working around the clock like I am. You just told me, oh, you were stuck on the truck. I I'll go out on a limb and guess that you still work a 12-hour day, just because there's systems or not, you still have so many parts of that system you need to touch and look at. You're grinding, right? You're working like a dog, like me.
I would say I work more hours than most. I sleep about 4 hours a night. I get up at 3:30, 4 in the morning, go to work, and I'm usually home at 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night in the summer.
Wow.
In the
Yeah.
winter months, I'm here. That like we talked, I did some snow. I do some snow removal, so that's something that I've kind of poured my heart into in the last couple of years. But
Cool. Neat. So, you know, just to kind of give a little like inside peek at my business, I do drainage. I do drainage. I do some roofing. I'm very selective on my roofing work. I cherry pick. I only take like generally primo projects, and then of course my rain gutter business is 21 years in. I do close to 4 million a year across all of that. But I look at my business and I look at my numbers, and there's ebbs and flows to the scaling, right? So one little ebb and flow for me that I'm excited about is, I look back historically. There has been cycles of me buying assets. One could argue that vehicles are they depreciate, right? Which they do, and that they're a liability. To me, they're an asset. They make me money. If I don't have them, I can't do the job. Obviously, there's upkeep involved in everything. But I found when I look back on the books, 20 years in for me, there's cycles of waves of me trying to push and scale and renew the fleet. And so maybe I'll turn around in the course of 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden I need a few box trucks, or I need a few vehicles in a small amount of time. And I don't necessarily buy everything outright in cash. I like to buy things that are newer or new, in great shape, and they cost money, especially in Connecticut. Everything's expensive here. So I'll go through waves where I have a bunch of notes, and I'm spending money monthly, obviously, on those loans. And then all of a sudden, I catch up to all of those loans. They're all paid off, and all of a sudden, I'm breathing easy, and maybe I have like another 8 to 10 grand a month in my pocket. And I'm about to do that again in like 4 months from now. Interestingly, I have, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 notes between, I have a vacuum truck, which is on a trailer frame. That was like an $80,000 spend. I have a few Mercedes Sprinter vans. I have a Ford pickup. I have a GMC Denali that I drive. There's a number of vehicles that I have loans on that are about to be paid off. So, you know, from a business planning perspective, you got to take that money then and repurpose it, right? Because you don't want to be taxed on it, but you want to make it work for the business. So it's this shell game constantly. And so I'm preparing for that. And I have like a 4 or 5 month window to plan to where am I going to put that money? Am I going to save it? Am I going to buy the house I told my wife we would buy? Am I going to buy more equipment? I'm pretty set for now. I think once I get over that hump, we'll be in good shape. Where are you? I look at photos of your business. You have a huge fleet. Do you pay cash for your vehicles? Do you take out loans? Are you like in the midst of a bunch of loans? How do you look at that financing of assets?
So when we first started, I paid cash for everything. I didn't like. I was terrified that we were going to lose anything, so I paid cash for every truck we had. As we started scaling, I did a balance of what was financed and what was paid cash for. I've still stayed very liquid with the company as we've grown.
Awesome.
Make sure that I could get out if something ever happened.
For
Um,
sure.
but, and the bigger this building gets, the more I'm like, I don't know, this is gonna be a huge auction.
And yeah, and they always get like a couple nickels on the dollar, right? When these auctioneers come in, they just liquidate it all, take all the money.
Yeah, but so we're still like we're leveraged. We finance to grow, but I look at it a little bit differently on stuff. Like if the asset makes money, then I'm willing to borrow money against it because I can cash flow that with itself being on the road, right? So like a sales vehicle, an install vehicle, without a doubt, those need to be financed, in my opinion, for growth. Whenever I've got my personal truck, I pay cash for my truck always.
Sure.
And then I'll replace that with something else that I can make a big down payment on and pay that off. Then
I
I've
do the
paid
same.
cash for every truck for I don't know quite a while, but I feel terrible whenever I buy a new truck. Like I'm
The
like
guilt.
I'm not the one making any money. I'm sitting in the office, but
Right.
and then like service vehicles we pay cash for, equipment and stuff like that we pay cash for. But anything that makes us money we finance.
Phenomenal. Well, that's good to know. A lot of guys are, well, I can't afford it, but then I don't want to buy it until I have the cash to afford it. And they get stuck in this quandary. And meanwhile, they're driving around in a beater that's leaking oil all over the customer's driveway. And it's just a lose, lose, lose. Um, let's get right to the numbers, man. I mean, at 10 million, I always see a lot of guys doing big volume. And, I'm a numbers guy. I'm close to the heart of the business. I see a lot of guys doing volume and I'm like, I mean, but you have margins? Are you making money? Are you waiting to make money years from now because you're trying to scale? I would venture to guess your margins well, and you're very profitable. What do you averaging a dollar? What are you averaging dollar wise per foot on gutter, if you don't mind me asking?
So what we charge per foot, that's what everybody wants to know, right?
Yeah, your retail pricing.
Like 6 inch gutters at like $12 a foot.
It's
Um,
fantastic.
5 inch is right around 10. And
Okay,
there's some variables, right? We've got pitch charges if we can't be on the roof. We've got two-story charges. We've got we evaluate the whole job, so we've got a really good price book built out for that.
sure.
So yeah, I think we're priced pretty high. So the next question that I always have fun with is the gross margin. Everybody always wants to know what my gross is, but it's a weird calculation. So how do you calculate your gross versus how I calculate mine, right? So
Right.
it's
Well,
for
so
me it's
for me,
gold
it's just
labor.
cost of goods sold. It's just materials and labor only. So any of my front office staff, my sales, my marketing, my appointment setters, that's not counted.
That's
That's
below the
all paid
line.
for in margins,
Yep.
out of margins. I just determine how much I paid down to the screw in materials and how much I paid for the installers putting that gutter on the house. Everything
Yep.
else comes out of my gross margins. Is that how you do it?
That's how I do it. I'm amazed at how many. So we've bought 7 companies. I'm always amazed at how many put their labor below the line.
It's crazy.
And I'm
It's
like,
disgusting.
they're like, I have a 75% gross margin.
So let me
Okay.
guess. Let me guess, because I'm very good with these numbers. You probably get a much better rate on materials than I do based on your volume, but I bet your margins are about 55%.
So 55, 54, 55 is where we like live all the time. We've got a goal of going up to 60 is what we're trying to get to right now.
All right, and I think that's reasonable and fair. You're working within a 5%. It's realistic. Some guys are like 65, 70. It's like it's not even doable. You have to pay somebody an honest wage. You got to pay
That
these
and
guys
that's
right.
usually if I see somebody at like a 65% margin, they're usually screwing the installers. Like,
100%. right. And that's why they're ready to sell or whatever, right? They're trying to fold up, and then if look, so you just gave me the answer to the question. It looks like you're growing by acquisition. Is that the strategy?
So over the next couple of years, acquisition is a big target for me. We actually pulled back and quit growing by acquisition for a little while. The Mainly because I had such horrible luck with owner operator buyouts.
Yeah.
Um, Now we're looking for guys that have some operations in place that
Yep.
could run without the owner.
Tell me
Um,
what the owner operator stuff. What, they just got in the way? They didn't want to conform. They just were sticks in the mud, right? Is that
so
the
I'll
idea?
give you an example. Our sales reps will do right around $1 million a year usually in sales. Between 700,000 and 1.5 is kind of where the window is. There's a big swing on them,
Same here.
and the goal for us that we shoot for is $1 million a year. Um, I had a guy that worked for me that was an owner operator. He worked for me for quite a while, and he just lost his marbles on me one day. And we had set his sales goal for $100,000 for the month, and he's like, it just can't be done, Cory. There's absolutely no way. I ran my gutter business for years, and my biggest year was $200,000. And I'm like,
I never needed to market. I never needed to advertise. Everybody knows me. It's all
and
reputation.
I'm like, man, you can't get out of your own way whenever that's your thought. And he always thought that we were screwing everybody because he was the guy that was charging people 375 a foot. Then.
To me, and all the mentoring and connections and just trying to like chop it up and help some of these smaller guys grow. Um, the most toxic, the most the mentality that I just, not only do I not understand it, it's just so toxic to me that I have to get away from it, is the mentality, especially on an old timer or somebody that's been doing this for a while, to say that their stomach is turned and they're put off to the fact that guys like you and I are selling rain gutter at $12 to $15 a foot, that it's off-putting to them that we're kind of doing the general population wrong. Meanwhile, it's a free market. Nobody has to say yes to us. They choose to say yes to us. Nobody needs to work for us. They choose to work for us because we are selling gutter at a rate where we could actually give somebody living wages, money enough to go and actually have a good life themselves. And why is that so off putting? Is it because they themselves can't achieve that, or they don't have the part of it? To me, I think, and you tell me what you think. To me, I think a lot of it comes from their, I don't want to say jealousy, but it's their insecurity in the fact that they cannot market and sell themselves. They cannot present to the homeowner in an effective manner and hand a number like that to somebody with a straight face and say, yes, that's our price. We get this every day, and this is the price for you too. And that's how much we need to do a good, nice job at your house. Do you think it's that? It's the insecurity of not being a confident salesperson? Or do you think it's just straight ignorance or a combination of the two?
You know, so I struggle with it because, for me, they're like, you're screwing over your homeowner. And for me, I'm like, you're screwing over your employees.
Yes.
So which one do you want to screw over? Do you want to take care of your guys that have been busting their balls, pardon me, for
Yeah.
how long, working for you to make a name for the business, or do you want to make sure that the customer gets the cheapest, absolute lowest price? But then, for that lowest price, you can't create any value for them.
You can't work on your own business. You can't put back into the business. You can't grow. You can't buy assets like we were just talking about. You can't give somebody a raise. You can't do anything. You're getting a ham sandwich to live for today. You're not taking care of even your own family. Shame on you. Shame on you to not take care of your family and your legacy.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's so. Is it, to your question? Is it their insecurities, or is it ignorance, or I don't know. I think a lot of it's probably insecurities in what their worth is,
yeah.
and I can't speak for where people's mind is at. I know I read a post on, it was on one of the gutter pages the other day, and I apologize if I'm calling somebody out, but it was somebody that said their operations and the other partner is like back office type side. So that, like, one guy's a good installer, one guy's a good operations or back office person, but nobody wants to sell. And
Oh, that's a get out of business
that's
immediately. Like you
that's
got
a
to
bad that's a bad spot to be in,
call
and
Cory. He's buying businesses. You shouldn't be in business. You should get to work for Cory immediately. I mean, this is dangerous.
but so like I back it up and like I'd love to sit down and talk to that guy someday because my current ops manager, general manager for the company, that super intelligent, really smart guy. He was running a big roofing company out of the Minneapolis area whenever I hired him, and he's like, I don't want to do sales. I hate sales. I don't like the idea of sales. I absolutely will not do it. And I'm like, you'll probably be really good at it. He's like, why? I said, because you're a good guy and people like you. Like, you don't need to be a slimy Kirby vacuum salesman
Yeah,
to make a good sale. And he went out his first year. He was just a location manager for us, and his first year out, he sold, produced, managed, and ran $1 million location with him running all the sales himself.
fantastic.
And that guy was a stud. Now
Where is
he's
he?
he's helping run the company. He actually lives in Wisconsin now. Oh,
Okay. All right. So speaking of that, how many states are you in right now?
we are currently in 3 states and 6 cities.
Well, I know in a couple weeks you're going to physically be in Connecticut visiting me.
Yeah.
Do we have any plans to move to the East Coast and take over operations on Connecticut gutter and let me continue to flex in the software side of things? What are we
Hey,
doing?
it's never
Are
out
you
of the
coming
picture,
east?
buddy. Never out
Yeah.
of the
I mean, I think you'll have when you visit. I'm excited. We're gonna do a lot of things. I'm gonna show you our operation here, obviously our facility, some of our job sites, and just even getting around and looking at the neighborhoods and the demographic here. It's very very interesting. It's a lot of folks. I've had guys come in to train. Right, I went gutter school. I've had guys fly in from Texas and they're in this is on our old shop. We're in a new shop now in Stamford, Connecticut. We used to be in Norwalk, Connecticut, and had guys in for 3-4 days. And, we train all day. At night, we go out for dinner. Friday night, Saturday night, we go out, have some drinks and have some fun and some laughs. And these were like some real Texas boys, and everybody had every single one of them had hey dudes on during the day and then boots, alligator skin boots or something at night. And they're looking around the shop and they're like, so you own this shop, right? So the owner, this particular company, the owner was very assertive. He's definitely like the big boss type of guy. And he's, in my ear. So you own this building, right? And I'm like, nah, I don't own this building. I have a lease here. I'd like to own it. It's a decent spot. I might make a play to buy it, but I don't own it. He's like, what? Like he was like put off that I didn't own the building. And I said, Mike, you know how much this building is worth? He's like, no. I said, 1.2 million, brother. Like this is a big spend. And it's not even my dream spot. Like I'm not spending 1.2 million. And he's like, what? Like he just couldn't fathom the value of the property. And that's what I'm up against here. So actually that is a little mini lesson. There's, in the performance, the KPIs of playing CEO, especially in an operation like yours where you're scaling and you have all of these little buttons and levers that you need to slide up, slide down, and manage and set. The way things are set up for me, like we just talked about price per foot. If we're both getting 12 to 15, I know my sales guys are out there getting 12 to 15 a foot on 6K 0.032 aluminum. And we try to lean towards that 15, but you and I are in the same wheelhouse on pricing. But the cost of living here is outrageous, right? So like I have to take that into consideration for my business model. Can I own the building? Should I lease it? How long should my lease be? What's a fair rate to take on for a shop? Whereas I see some guys, in the middle of the country or down south, and they have 2 acres and a pole barn and all kinds of real estate, and it's super cost effective. They throw a couple bucks at it. I'm being a little facetious, but
Yeah.
$2,000 or something, and that covers their physical locations overhead. So this isn't a cookie cutter recipe, guys. You can't take Cory's recipe, plug it in at your hometown, and make it work. You can't take mine. What you need is a strategist, and I'm sure Cory has the skills to do this. He's demonstrating it, but somebody that could tell you, all right, dial this up, turn that way down, and let's get it all dialed in that suits your zip code or your series of zip codes, and see what works best for you. And then, there's some markets where, man, you can't get more than $6 a foot because the market just won't allow for it. People won't pay it, and the competition is too crazy. So that's a whole nother game. Half the time I say just get out of the business unless you know how to really build a big brand and market. What are you doing for marketing? How do you position
So
yourself? What kind
before
of
before we jump into marketing, I just want to pull up something you just said. You said some people can only get $6 a foot in their market. Um, this market that I'm in, I was getting 350 a foot when I started,
wow.
and I and mind you, that's not that long ago. And I told everybody I'm going to be the cheapest in town. I'm going to do every gutter. I started at $3 a foot, and I operated at that for like a month. And I'm like, I'm not making any money. But
Well, there's a short right there. I'm sure George is going to chop that up and use that. That's you just said what everybody else thinks and does, except you did something different. You changed the game, right? You flipped it and said, not acceptable. How do I get the big bucks?
so the next week I doubled my prices. And I'm like, well, everybody wants me to do their gutters. They just want them cheap. So let's see if they still want my gutters whenever we double the price, because we were slammed. We were busy. And I doubled the price. And then when I did that, I didn't want to do it for no reason, right? So we added a warranty. We added stainless steel fasteners, lifetime warranty brackets.
Oh yeah.
We went above and beyond on the sales presentation. Like, we started changing the way we were selling the gutter, and everybody continued paying it. I was just as busy.
Isn't
And
it amazing?
then the next year we went up again, and the next year we went up again. Now all of my competitors in this area should probably send me thank you letters every year, because everybody used to sell at $3 a foot. Now we're all
Oh,
selling at 10 bucks.
you raised the bar.
Yeah. So raise the bar in your market. Don't be afraid to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it starts with just having the sheer confidence in yourself, in your staff, in your brand, in your ability to dig in, put your feet down firmly in front of the consumer and in front of the prospect and say, "This is my price. I command this amount of money because we do that great of a job and we use the highest quality material and we have all the warranties and dig your feet in and don't take no for an answer. And if you are strong enough with your convictions with it, if you deliver that message with your face and your brand and your likeness, the consumers understand this before you even show up at the door. They expect it. You sort of pre-qualify them to that's how this is going to go. And you made it when you start getting the message from the consumer, hey, I know you're going to be the best option for me. I'm just I just hope I can afford you. Like if you get that message a few times a month, everything's going well, guys. Like that's where
Yeah.
you want to be. That's the place.
So then like to start it up, like we added a 6-inch machine. And to go back to your point, like nobody in our town had a 6-inch machine at the time, and now we've added every other kind of machine. But back then, I remember sitting at a customer's house, sitting at the hood of my truck before we had a really great sales presentation. But it was decent, it was a nice box that we had built, but it's nothing like what we do now. But I was trying to sell him 6-inch cutters, and he's like, "Well, Cory, I tell you what, you've just told me the value of 6-inch and what it creates, but you must be making waves in this community, because every single other guy I got an estimate from spent the entire time telling me why 6-inch was foolish." And
Unbelievable. I sold
so
my 5-inch machines about 13, 14 years ago and never looked back. I made this decision internally. I said, the 5-inch K style is the commodity of this industry. We don't sell a commodity. We're done. I'm not racing to the bottom. I'm not competing on price. I'm going to do everything else that the standard guy does not do. I'm a lefty. It's almost like left-handed thinking. We do everything opposite. I was a wrestler in high school. My coaches hated me, and I'd pin guys, I'd win, but I took an unorthodox approach. And sometimes with business, you have to do the backdoor approach, right? Or do it the opposite way to just keep them guessing, and it works. And
yeah.
why do everything else everybody else is doing? Why just why fit the mold? Forget that.
Yeah, I'm always thinking 10 steps further ahead and how to break the mold the next time. So.
So where are you going with this business, man? 10 million. Where does it stop? Where do you sit back and go? Okay, I'm satisfied. Where do you drop pins on the map of the country? Like, what are we doing here?
120 million in sales or 120 locations, whichever comes first. And that's gutter only sales. And
Are you serious? That's the goal?
that's the goal. That's the number.
Oh my god, I love it, man.
I'm
So
getting
aggressive.
old though, so I need help.
Yeah, you old. I got a couple years on you. How old are you now?
39.
Ah, you're a baby. Although
Yeah.
we talk about it internally here, it all goes downhill after 40. You
Yeah.
start going to the doctor you never thought you'd go see. You got pains and aches in places you never knew you had. It changes, man.
I remember going on my honeymoon, climbing mountains with my wife, and we're going up and down these. And I wouldn't call them really mountains. We were just in Alaska. It was nothing really big, but we were just out on hikes. And my wife was getting tired, and we get to the peak of one, and go down, and go to the peak of the next, and go down, and go to the peak of the next. And she's like, "I'm going back. You're on your own." I said, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "What's wrong?" She's like, I can't keep up with you. You have too much energy." I said, I climb ladders every day for a living, right? Like,
That'll do it. That'll
so,
do it.
but
Well, all right.
no,
So
no,
120 million. There's so many places we could go with this. I think just to give the audience perspective without giving away proprietary secrets per se, if you could touch on the top three things that you implemented in your business that boosted you from that 1 million mark to the 10 million mark. What are like the three? Now, again, and I say this because you're an outlier. You work like a crazy man. I know what I'm trying to do over here. I could give somebody the step-by-step manual on everything they need to do to make it happen, and they're not going to do it because it's the human condition, and there's some of us that are wired to do this and some of us that just don't have that drive. If you could talk about the top three things that if you got stuck in an elevator with some guy and you find out he's a newbie gutter guy, right? He's 6 months in the business and you are who you are. What three things would you impart with him to focus on to grow his deal?
So before we get into it, I'm going to tell you that the perfect gutter business is $2 million. You should never go over that, in my opinion.
That's where that's the sweet spot I hit, and that's where I keep that business.
That's where it should be. There's benchmarks beyond that. So if you want to go to it, talk to me about it. I'll tell you where the benchmarks are.
All right, so wait, why is that the sweet spot? Why do you think that's the place to be?
That's where the most profit is. Where you can run it with one ops manager with very little headache, not a lot of overhead. That's where the premium profit is in this industry, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's every
amazing
location.
knowledge.
Every location that we start, I don't want them to go over 2 million. So Brainerd is an oddity. Like my home location does too much. Like
Right.
it'll do too much this year. Like it takes a lot to run it. It helps that I'm in this location. But
Sure.
that being said, we'll get into the top three things. So number one is build for the business that you want to become, not the business that you are. So the biggest mistake I see people making is they invest in infrastructure and things that they think are going to help them today, not what's going to help them 3 years from now is where they're heading.
Right.
So I've always over invested in infrastructure. As long as I know I'm heading there, right?
Give us an example, just one example of infrastructure.
So salesman would be an easy one for you for if you're going to go for that. But a big one for me was was Service Titan for us going into a good CRM. Like get a CRM that you know can run a $2 million business, or you know can run a 10 million or a 50 million or $100 million business.
Amazing.
Another one would be like actually hiring an operations manager whenever you know you can do all the work yourself. But if you want to scale, you're never going to scale beyond the capacity of yourself, right?
Correct.
So you need to have people around you that can help soak up some of that workload. Second thing would be that I would say that you need to know your numbers like dialed in exactly where they are and know what percentage you plan to spend on marketing. If you're going to grow, the marketing is the number one most important thing you need to spend on, in my opinion. But
I'm with you.
And then Number three would be never stop listening to your guys. Um, they'll tell you you need to walk around. My buddy Ben Conowitz calls it slapping the hood, but the
Ben is great at it too, isn't he?
yeah, he's great at it. He listens to his guys. He cares, but it's going out and slapping the hood, chatting with the guys. I went down and met with Jimmy Fazekas down in Alabama. Down
Yeah.
at don't ever say the ocean. It's the Gulf Shores.
What's up,
They're on the
Jimmy?
Gulf.
See you in a couple of weeks, pal.
Yeah, don't tell him you're going to the ocean if you don't do it out.
He's always on
Um,
a boat. It looks like on his
that's all he
personals, isn't he? He's always at the beach.
well, he's got his own dock slip at the beach, so it works out good. But
That'll do it.
so he does really good at it too, though. Slapping the hood, getting to know the guys. Like you walk around Jimmy's shop, everybody loves him. You walk around Ben's shop, everybody loves him. They're good guys, but you have to listen to what they're saying. So that's the final thing that I would say is like I've lost sight of it a couple times just loosely, and it's
Sure.
you always have to get back in and get kind of on the ground floor with all of your staff and know what their feeling is. Because if they don't want to scale, you're not going to scale.
How much time a day or a week do you spend what they call managing by walking around? Do you do where you pop in on departments and staff and make the time, or do you have like formal sit down scheduled meetings? How much time do you put into that in a work day?
I have zero. Well, I shouldn't say zero. I have very little formal scheduled meetings with my staff. I would say most of our time is walk around time. So whenever I'm in the building, and I'm only in the building probably 50% of the time now, I'm out traveling around going to see guys like you. But I would say 75% of my time in the building is managing by walking around. I do all of my back end work, anything that I need to do, but building the business wise on my own time.
Amazing. I mean, I have to tell you, you do. I think what I see, and I try to be a good read on people, especially because from a salesman's perspective, and that's my forte. I think what you are, and maybe you could be humble and say I'm right, but maybe I'm wrong. But I think what you are is you're fearless. You're not afraid to go out on a limb. You're not afraid to travel. Come see guys like me, fly across the country, get away from your company and spend money, which most guys would be scared out of their wits. Like, well, I'm away and I think I could go learn something by traveling and meet in other operations. But the thought of getting away from my business and unplugging myself from the day to day, I think everything is going to collapse. And I just don't have the balls to pull it off. Same thing with bringing in an ops manager or hiring a sales manager or bringing in somebody to replace parts of you that you used to do. It's a big leap of faith because you have to afford it. And now you're moving off at the same time yourself, and you're going into uncharted territory of growth for you. So again, it takes swinging to the balls, as I say, in every direction. And I think that you're a big ball swinger, my friend. So am I right or am I right?
So I would say you're right. But my wife would agree with you.
It always goes to the wife conversation, and I would say the same thing to you. My wife we'll have to get the girls together at Gutter College. Is your wife coming?
I believe she is. We're talking about the logistics with the kids right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it takes some. Tell me about being brave.
So I would say like you talk about swinging for the fences, swinging for the balls, whatever. I went to Grant Cardone 10X conference, right? I'm going there. I'm going to be all jacked up. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to learn so much. And we're sitting in the conference, and I looked over at my wife. I said, "What do you think?" She's like, "We don't need to be here." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "This is the way you think anyway. Like this isn't."
Right.
She's like, "This isn't helping you." She said, "I get more."
But I know what you need. You need the fuel. I mean, look, why would I attend? I haven't been to a Grant Cardone function, but I would. And the reason why I do it is I'm all firepower and geared up, but sometimes you got to fill the tanks, right? You got to fill up with some diesel fuel and get back in the trenches. And you need that reminder or that sort of that confidence booster. Like, I'm doing the right thing. Everybody in this room is doing the same thing. I'm on the right path. Thanks for the reminder. And then she's right. Let's split. Let's get home and get back to it.
Yeah. So I'll give you one thing though that I think Brent will appreciate though is the first year I went to GutterCon, I thought it was a joke and I thought it was never going to last. the After the first year, I was hooked, and I left there with so much motivation, so much excitement, and filled up the tanks. And I saw a comment the other day where somebody said, "I just can't afford to spend $500 on a getaway for the weekend." You spend that 500, you'll get it back tenfold.
Oh
It'll
my
turn into
God,
$5,000
it's a no brainer. It's back to the fear factor, right? It's back to the scarcity thinking and the just that fear that freezes guys over. $500, $700, $5,000. I mean, it's no different from me as a vendor. I'm spending in excess of $10,000 to be a vendor, and I don't
Yeah.
want to part with that money, but I know that money makes money, and you put it out, and it comes back to you, and you have to have trust in the process. If you can't trust the process, you can't grow a business. It just doesn't work. It doesn't
And you got to
work.
be able to get away. Like start with 1 day, start with 2 days, start with 3 days, then go to a week, then go to a month. Like you've got to be able to leave and know that it's not going to fall apart. Is it going to go perfect? Probably not.
No.
Especially the first time, probably not. But it gets better every time. Your team grows every time. Like they need you out of the building so that they can grow, and it's super important for you to do that just for your own team.
You know, that just kind of it reminded me of something. One of these like little takeaways that I in business school that I it's always kind of stuck with me, and I always wonder how other people feel about it. I'd love to ask this question to you. They say in order to scale, and I do believe this. This is 100% true, but I'm still not comfortable with it. But I wonder how other guys feel about it. They say to scale, you have to accept that the business is not going to be at running at 100% efficiency. Sales, presentation, customer service, it's not going to be at 100. Maybe it'll be in the 80s. It'll be a B plus if you're lucky. And you have to accept that as the owner in order to be able to step away and let it grow. Um, how do you feel about that? Do you agree with that? And did you get yourself
Yeah.
into a place where you're comfortable with that in order to grow? Or do you fight that like me where it kind of just makes you kind of woozy in the stomach every once in a while?
Every once in a while it gets to me, but I got over it. So the thing for me, the biggest struggle I had, and I think the biggest struggle most gutter guys have, is they're like nobody's going to install gutters like I did.
Agreed, and we're saying yes. That's the case. That's right.
Yeah, and that's fine. And but what really matters and what the customer really cares about is that you stood behind it regardless. So
Right.
if they made a mistake, if your installers that you hired made a mistake, you came back, you fixed it, no questions asked. Maybe you were the one that had to go fix it. That's okay. It was a training point. You got to teach your guys something. Like I used to struggle with it because I was and I was an arrogant guy when I was growing up. Like I was the best installer we ever had, is what I kept telling everybody.
Right.
And I'm like, now I'm almost 40 and I don't want to be on a truck anymore. I'm not, I don't want to be the best installer anymore.
Right. To me, as an owner, it's not about the guy I put on a truck that is the quote unquote best installer. By the way, those guys are usually toxic. The whole crew hates them. They don't get along with anyone. They're divas a lot of times. But
Yeah.
to me, for the business, for the big picture, it's not about the guy that's the absolute craftiest, best installer. It's about the guy that gives the best customer service and the best customer experience, whether it be the job lead or the foreman or what have you. If they leave that job, the job's done adequately to satisfaction, and the homeowner feels good about the business, that's my best guy. That's my top guy. Um, that's what we need to build as business owners in order to build a business that scales, that gets referrals. Marketing is expensive.
Yeah.
The cheapest, which means the best lead source is referral leads, where someone says, "Oh, you got to call Cory. He's the best around." That costs nothing. That was absolutely free. How do you make people feel like that? You have to give them this wow factor, and that's not inherent to a staffer. That has to be trained. That has to be initiated. That usually has to be systemized by the owner and management. And those are the things you need to implement. Having a technical staff is important, but it's not paramount. It's not everything.
So, we had an installer. It starts with the attitude of the installers, and that's where I say walking around and talking with your guys, like it's your person answering the phone, and it's the person doing the install because it's the first and last person they meet. Um, what's in between matters, obviously, but I remember an installer that I had that was probably one of the angriest installers I've ever employed, and he he went to the job site. He actually, when he quit, he drove to a job site, called, got a ride, and left my truck there. Like, it took me a while to figure it out. That's the kind of
He
guy he
was an
was. But
asshole, is what he was. He
yeah,
was just an asshole.
yeah. But we had he went on a service call and the customer was yelling at him, and he comes back and he's telling me about this whole interaction. He says, "I don't know why you're so fucking mad. I know that no matter what, Cory will stand behind it, and you'll get what you want. I want to make sure you know that." And,
That's
and I
one way
said,
to do it.
I'm like, he was an asshole, and he still got it.
He was a real people person.
But no, it's all good. Like, you learn by all of those things. But what's what's been what's made me let go and be able to let go is knowing that, like, we're growing into something else, that we're supporting other families, that we're
Totally.
becoming something that means something to me. Like, this is a legacy business for me. I'm not sure I'll ever sell it. Like,
I know,
I
you're
care a
so
lot about it.
invested in it. I mean, again, Dad is in there. It's a family-run business, just like mine is. But I mean, I am so motivated, and I can't wait to watch you continue to grow and tell us about where you're at and what you're doing. One we kind of touched on it, and then we got into other things. I'm a big marketing guy, and I know you and I are going to really get into that when you come visit. Um, by the numbers, again, like you said, one of the biggest ways I scaled and was able to buy out a 50% partner and grow my business. So my last year with my partner was 2000 and 2011, 2010, and we did 800 grand together. And I was lead sales. I think I was the only salesperson, 800 grand. The next year alone, doing all the sales and all of the management of the business, I doubled revenues. I went to 1.6 million in the next year, and I was like, "Whoa, this guy, a great guy, a great guy." We had a nice relationship. Our significant others were friends, and we socialized, and yeah, that's how these things tend to go about. But he was sort of an anchor. And I couldn't figure out how or why, but it doesn't matter. He was an anchor. He was a hindrance to the growth of the business. Uh, the marketing and the scaling is critical stuff. I got really close to the numbers. As soon as I did that, I was able to exceed 2 million with the rain gutter business by itself. Um, I know the numbers. I'm curious because I got to do the reverse math. Do you know off the top of your head what you spend monthly, or let's say in a year, on your marketing efforts? Do you have that itemized on your balance sheet or your P&L?
Yeah. So last year, like I told you, was a year that we pulled back and corrected some stuff. Last year we only spent about 250,000 on marketing,
Wow,
uh,
that's it.
on purpose. Yeah. So there, like the year before, I spent about 1 million.
Okay.
The so there's residual that will
All
carry
right.
you in
So,
marketing, right?
well, so you're supporting me. You just hit the nail on the head. At 1 million, now, was that an overspend, or you think that 1 million was suited for?
It was, some of it was an overspend because we weren't tracking it properly, and that's where we kind of changed the way we're doing some stuff now.
All right. So,
Um,
by the numbers, and you look at like any kind of business book, and I try to follow the tenets on this. They tend to say to take 10% of gross revenue and wrap that right back into your marketing agenda to keep things pushing. And at $1 million spend and $10 million in revenue, that's it right on the money. Do you follow that math, or what's your spend?
yeah. So as we've grown, we've always been at 10%. That's always been my goal. I got as high as 12% on accident once. Uh,
Yikes!
but
Right?
it's
You got to
ten
do it
percent
though.
is always my target. And then whenever we want to pull back on the reins just a little bit, we usually drop to five. Would be the number that I would drop to. This last time we dropped quite a bit further, but it was mainly to get rid of some old stuff that probably wasn't working anymore anyway,
Sure.
and to clean up some of the marketing spend and really hit it with a real numbers approach this year.
What do you say to the guys out there that are like, we talk about stuff like this, 5%, 10%. I can't tell you how many guys I talk to that are just like blown away. Even when you talk SEO or lead gen on based on keywords with a website and what that value is. There's so many guys that are just not, they can't tolerate a $10,000, a $15,000 a month spend on marketing, and yet they still want to grow. And they're like, I do it just based on brand awareness and reputation. And I'm like, nah, you got to throw the
Really
money
don't.
in 10 different directions. You got to spread it around. And they say no, and they fight me, and they think I'm out of my mind. What do you say about about that topic?
I'd say you're going to be working for a contractor the rest of your life if you don't want to spend a little bit on marketing.
Yeah. You know what it
Um,
is? There's just so much. Let's face it, it's intimidating, right? Where do I spend my marketing dollars? Where do I have Facebook ads, I have Google ads, I could get on Hulu, I could go on Google, I could do YouTube. It is very confusing and intimidating, and maybe that's why guys want to say I don't need it, or they balk at it. But do you outsource that? Do you have a marketing agency, or do you do that all in house?
so we have a fairly robust team in house and use a marketing firm for some of it. So
How large is your marketing department by head count?
right now, 3 people, but
It's very good. It's very good.
unless
You
you,
know,
unless you add the sales team in, then it's huge.
absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest twists I did here, and I think that's probably one of the things you want to talk to me about is 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I really started. I brought in a marketing manager, so it was content creation. That really, I read up on that a ton. I studied it. I come from an IT background, but with the evolution of lead generation and search engine optimization and being an authority on the internet. Obviously, if you're an authority and you're getting organic results on your website, it doesn't cost you much of anything. I mean, it costs you what it takes to implement the website, build the website, manage the website, but you don't have to pay for organic, pay-per-click ads. You do need to, but the organic leads are basically free. So the idea of taking the money that you would otherwise spend on a pay-per-click lead, that if you allocate the money, the ad is there. The minute you don't allocate the money, the ad is not being shown. You're not getting a click. You're not getting a lead. That was insanity to me. So I said, let me bring it in house. Let me create as much content as I can. Let me put somebody to start managing content on my sites and just go crazy. I have 5 or 6 or I don't know, maybe even 7 websites. I forget now. But we massage that content and go crazy with it. That was a big game changer for me. And that was one of those ball swings too, where it's like, geez, I'm paying a salary to do this. This better net results. I mean, I'm cutting into my profit. I'm cutting into my take home. I'm potentially risking my wife and children. This better pay out. And man, it did pay out. And to me, it's critical. But a lot of guys can't get their head around content creation and social media and video. Believe me, it was foreign to me when I really delved into it head first, but I think it's critical. How much of that are you putting into your business? You creating a lot of video content?
So we've created a ton in the past, but this year that's one of our big objectives is to create a lot more. One of the new guys we hired is strictly content creation. Basically, he's going to be out there. He's helping out with all the marketing efforts. But I want to get on the internet more and be a more of an authority in the figure in the space that I'm in.
And as you should be. You're definitely you're a celebrity, bro. You're an inspiration, and this growth. I mean, good, bad, or otherwise. I know you're approachable. All of these systems, all of these things you put together. Granted, we never want to kind of help our competition per se, but again, I'll tell you something, buddy. You could give a step-by-step manual to the next guy, and they're just not going to do it because they don't have the heart and the grit and the moxie and the drive and the swing on those balls. And how much help can you offer the guy that actually does have that grit and that drive, that like is on his hands and knees? Cory, show me the way, oh Jedi. Um, are you going to monetize this system? Are you going to how do we get more of Cory out there?
I don't know. I don't know if I've told friends of mine that are in this space. I'm like, call me whenever you want. Let me be your sounding board. I'll give you all the advice you want for free. Um, it is a goal of mine to become a coach in the small construction space at some point.
Cool.
Uh, I think I've got a lot of knowledge to offer for somebody that's trying to grow a business. Um, I wouldn't say I did it the best way, but I know the mistakes I made along the way now, and I would love to help people out as much as possible. But what you're doing with the gutter school and what some of the guys out there are doing right now with everything they've got is awesome. It's starting to level up the company, so all the companies around us. Um, I would, if you invited me to teach, I would teach with you as well.
Done.
Uh,
Done.
done.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm so proud of it, first of all, and I'm also so excited to show it to somebody like you. We have a link on Gutter app that'll take you into Gutter School. Um, we are, there's a lot of content, and it's very, very deep, heavy stuff in different departments all over the place. And it's well produced. And I can't wait for you to get here because I want to show it to you. We have it it's all organized. It's all on an educational platform that is customized for Gutter School. The Gutter School logo's in the top left-hand corner. You have a private login and password to get inside of it. And we touch on marketing. We touch on sales. We touch on how to hire a sales manager. We talk about lead setting and an appointment center. We talk about accounting. We talk about average dollar per lead. We talk about dressing for success. We talk about all of these things. And I'm one guy. I have a lot of guys in the industry that are friends. And you are one of the guys that would make a fantastic professor. And let me show it to you first. I think you're going to be jazzed when you see it. And basically, this is going to be a legacy for you and I, where it's always going to be there. The guys that want to have access to it, one way or the other, we give them that access. And we're going to monetize it as we should. It takes us a lot of time and effort to put this together. But I want to talk to you about it because I want you involved.
Yeah, I'd love to be involved, and like you said, there's a lot of guys that'll never implement it, but everybody's so worried to share. I remember sitting at a supplier, and a guy asked me a tip on how to do something, and I told him step by step how we do it, everything that we do, and I was just sitting in a chair in the waiting room waiting for our material, and that guy gets his material and leaves, and the vendor at the desk, he's like, "What's wrong with you? Why would you give him all the answers?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "He's never gonna do it. It's fine."
You're right.
But
You're right. That's it.
but to your point, the reason that I want to give back is because a rising tide does raise all ships, and HVAC has done it for quite a few years now. That's been the industry that's been on fire. Garage doors, because of Tommy, has been just exploding. And there's other guys that drive. It doesn't mean that it's like the Ishmael Valdez or the Tommy Mello of the industries. It's not them that did it. It's them that were willing to just keep raising the bar and raising the ship.
So maybe that's the track you're on. It sounds like that's it. Tommy Mello of Rain Gutters. Is that the same? I mean, what's he doing? 200 million now? He's doing something crazy, right?
Yeah. So he actually he just partnered up with some private equity and is going to be growing even faster. I think he'll be the first one to $1 billion in the home service space. But if Tommy ever watches, I'll let him know that. But so I actually flew out and hung out with Tommy back. Oh, this is probably about 5 years ago, somewhere in there. But
Arizona.
I was listening to his podcast, and I'm like, this guy seems like a good guy. I'm gonna call him. And I called, left an email, left a voicemail, nothing, didn't hear anything back.
Right.
And then finally, his assistant reached out and said, "Hey, we've got a couple contacts from you that you want to set up a meeting with Tommy. I'd love to set up a 5-minute call for you guys." And that 5-minute call turned into probably about an hour and a half call.
Amazing.
Me and him just shooting the shit, and I'm like, "Man, if you ever want, like, I'd love to come out and tour your shop." He's like, "You come here anytime you want." I said, "What's the soonest I could be there?" He's like, "How's next Tuesday?" I said, "I'll see you next Tuesday." I walked into my office and I said, "Book me a flight to Scottsdale or Phoenix, Arizona next week." And my office assistant that time, she's like, "For what?" I'm like, "I met a guy on the internet, and I'm gonna go see him." And she's like, "You're gonna end up dead in an alley somewhere." I'm like, "No, he seems like a good guy. It'll be good." So, and I toured his shop, and him and I became good friends. He's been up here. He's a busy guy now.
Yeah.
Toured my shop, but when I walked in his doors that day, I shook his hand. I said, "I'm Cory. It's nice to meet you. I'll be the first gutter guy to sell more gutters than a garage door guy like you." And
I love it.
he's like, "Dream on." but
He's
but
competitive.
yeah, but it was that competitive nature that drew us together and made us become friends, and it's been fun meeting guys like that along the way. That's what I've taken away from all of this stuff is being able to meet that type of person.
Absolutely. He's a powerhouse. That dude's high energy. He's always on. He's yeah, I met him a few times. We're not buddies per se. He probably couldn't pick me out of a lineup, but he's that guy. He's the guy on stage that he's memorable. He's high energy and he's believable. He's plugging into that business and making things happen. So if he could do it in garage doors, someone's got to do it in gutter. Why not
Yeah,
you? Why not you? Could be you, buddy.
and why not you? Like it could be
Why
any
not
of
me?
us. Yeah,
Yeah, my goals are set in a different direction per se. The scaling of the service business, it's not on the forefront for me. I think I like the growth element. I like the profit concept of it, but I'm deep into software and I in the home improvement space. But I have some really unique. A lot of what I'm doing, it's like a three punch, four punch combo: education, software, lead generation, and trying to revolutionize on the materials side too. Because once you get that vast amount of people all moving in the same direction, you have the ability to change the world, right? You could go to the manufacturer or create your own manufacturing plant for that matter and do things your way. And, like in the rain gutter space, you could essentially have your own factory. You could change the way the paint process is applied. Double baked enamel, I'm not a huge fan. It scratches easy. Some of the hems on downspouts, they're weak, they're crappy. Maybe with that type of volume, if all the purchasing is going through you and your dealer network or your business, the privately held business, you make your own material at that point. You change the rules, you change the game. So I there's so much crossover. I have a feeling you and I will find 5 different avenues to do business together as we continue to climb the ladder together. But I'm just happy to have you in my inner circle, and I'm excited to get you in Connecticut and have some fun.
I've never been out there, so I'm looking forward to it. That's I've been to both oceans, but I've never spent any time in the New York, Connecticut area, so I'm not familiar.
So you know what? We should probably run into the city too. I'm in the first town in Connecticut. We're like a 45-minute train ride out of Manhattan, Grand Central, and depending on traffic, we could do that drive in an hour too. So we could do that. We could run in and have some fun. And have you ever been to Times Square?
No.
Oh man! Oh, there's so much fun. It's funny. I'm born in New York, and I've been in the tri-state area my whole life, and so New York, we go in and out as needed for fun. I stay away from that as a tourist, but I'll tell you what, we'll go have a nice meal, a couple beers at a nice bar. If you're a beer drinker or whatever your drink of choice is, we could Times Square to see the lights. We could have some fun, and then where I live is absolutely. We live a charmed life here. It's gorgeous here. We're right on the ocean, or right on the Long Island Sound. Anyway, I tell you what. Once we get you set up and you're creating almost reality content, which you really should be, almost near day in the life of Cory or in the life of the business, because it makes you real to the prospect, right? They're like it just brings you closer to the consumer. The way I'm strategizing on my marketing, I get reminded every day because I do all the sales on the drainage stuff. My average ticket's 59,000 and change, and I can't relinquish control just yet. I'm probably 2 months away from doing that. I have the guy that's right for the job. Fantastic drainage expert. He's been in the industry far longer than me, but I'm still holding fast to that role because I'm having fun with it too. But the point is, when I go to a prospective project, they tell me I'm a celebrity. They can't believe I'm at the house. Oh my God, it's you. I can't believe it's. I'm like, what are you talking? Well, we saw you. We watched all your videos on YouTube, and man, you give us so much knowledge, and it's a lot of DIY stuff. But let's face it, we're not going to dig and put in a system, and we want you to do it, but we trust you. You're the guy. So where I'm going with this is, where we're going in general with this is, content, more content, more of day in the life type of stuff, which almost is like a mimics a reality show in of itself. And what if we're doing that nationally, like they do on any HGTV TV show? Maybe it's Cory getting it done in the Minnesota space. I'm out here. We jet set and fly and see each other from time to time, and then we're filming together. I mean, all of it contributes to the bottom line. It's all going to make our businesses hum. We're going to have fun doing it. And we're also breaking new ground that has not been done in our industry. And that's going to lead to you pulling off a Tommy Mello move. You know what I mean? You kind of have to, you got to venture into that type of stuff because in order to do what you're not doing, you got to do the things you're not doing too, right? It's all kind of, it's all part of that math.
Yeah. So like, whenever I come out to see you, I want to see everything. Like, I want to go see a job site. I want to see the type of houses you're working on. I want to know like how you guys approach sales versus how I approach sales. So one thing that I've done is fly around the country and visit every gutter shop that'll let me in, pretty much.
That's awesome.
I'm looking for bigger gutter shops that like to run it like a business. But I went down to
Okay.
but they so Colonial Gutter Solutions, and I rode along with their salesman. I went out on a few installs, and like that's what I want to do. And I went through a neighborhood with him, and everybody tells me door knocking doesn't work, and I'm like, pull over, let's door knock, and he's like, what? No. I'm like, pull over. This looks like a great house. Then he like we're chatting with people and walking around the neighborhood, and I'm carrying his business cards, and he's like, I ran into this old guy, and I'm like, yeah, we're just in the neighborhood doing some gutter repairs down here. We were checking on a job site. I wanted to talk to you, and he's like, oh man, actually, I think the Johnsons down the street are looking to get some gutters put on there. They just got their roof done, and we went down, so that guy knew everybody in the neighborhood.
Of course he did.
I said, that's your point. You have to find that guy in the neighborhood. But I said, anything I can do to help you level up, like it helps me grow to get outside of my comfort zone. And I hope that I can help everybody else grow whenever I'm out hanging out with people. So.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to get you up in a truck and take a spin around town and show you what we do here and chat it up and learn from you too. It's going to go both ways, and that's what it's about. It's all about connections. We can't run as islands, right? You're not out in the middle of the ocean by yourself. You need a network. The only way to work is to network, and that's the way to grow.
Yeah, and so to the point with Bren's deal with GutterCon coming up, everybody that's like on the fence about going to it, and I know that's not what this podcast is supposed to be about, but it can be just anything inside of going to a shop, going to GutterCon, going to whatever. Yeah. But what you'll gain at a convention like this is you'll gain knowledge around the country that's not competitors to you. So the one thing I've learned with gutter guys is they all hate each other. And like whenever you're in a neighborhood, like you're my neighbor 4 doors down from me. I don't think he likes me very much, but he's my neighbor, and we're in the same market. We don't talk much about pricing. I'm sure he watches some of these. That's fine. I don't care. But yeah,
see you.
But so whenever you go to GutterCon, it gives you the ability to ask guys like you, Frank, or like Jimmy, or like Ben, and it gives me a chance to talk to everybody from around the country and know what they're doing and how they're doing it, and it doesn't feel like a threat to me.
Right. It's the opposite. It's so comfortable, and we all speak the same language, right? So like, it doesn't matter if you have a Minnesota accent or a New York accent, or you sound different, or you dress different. When we sit down and chop it up, we all know that we know what we're talking about. We're all speaking the same language, and a gutter is a gutter is a gutter. Let's face it. We're not on the roof lines of France doing things on zinc. Like I do a little bit of zinc, but you know what I mean? We speak the same language. You meet these guys that are they blow you away within the first few hours of the first day of the conference. You're like, whoa, I see this guy on Facebook all the time, or he's on groups, and I never thought I'd sit down and have a chat with this guy, and he's open to talk to me, and he's willing to help me, and everybody's just so loving and warm, and it really is this beautiful community. And I'm proud of us. I'm proud of the community. We're in a renaissance. I say this again and again and again, but we're truly in this renaissance for our industry. And it took you young guys to get here. It took technology and Facebook and social media to kind of create a bridge where we could all come together. Because back in the day, it was these old dogs that were out there running, and they don't use phones, they don't use technology, they don't use computers. Back to that separate island concept. They're just a small little island out in the ocean by themselves. Now we have all this technology. We're in this rapidly growing renaissance where guys like me could build software. We're leveraging software like Service Titan. We're sharing information instantaneously. Cory and I could shoot video together from across the country and drop all kinds of knowledge on you guys. George could post produce it, make it fun and attractive, and we could have it up on the internet in 24 hours. I mean, it's just, we're in a renaissance. I love it. It took me 21 years of being in this business to see the industry get to this. And get out there, guys. Take advantage of it. Make it work for you. I have friends like Scott Malashis, who I shot a pod with yesterday. He's only a few years in the business. You could scale and ramp up so fast with the knowledge guys like Cory are dropping on you. You just have to embrace this renaissance, and it's exciting times.
If George can make us look fun and attractive, that he's a magician. So.
Put that filter on my face, George. You know what to do.
Oh man!
All right, brother. I'm gonna let you go. I got a few more hours of video to shoot tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Let's talk again before your visit. When are you coming in? What, 2 weeks?
2 weeks. Yeah, 22nd I think is when I fly in.
Yeah, awesome. We'll chop it up before then and just prep and get ready. And I want to know what you want to do. If there's stuff you want to do while you're here, start texting me, and I'll tee it up. I'll make sure you go home with a big smile on your face, and I'm looking forward to it. So there's an Albanian restaurant downtown here near us. We have a blast going there. It's a trip. The food's amazing, and the atmosphere is cool. We'll bounce around. We're gonna do a number of. We'll have fun with some video too. We'll make some like taste test videos. We'll talk gutter, and we'll have some fine dining at the same time and see what you think.
I love it.
All right, man. I'll catch you later. Have a wonderful evening, and see you soon.
Thanks for everything. Take care.